remember the first time we really talked. It wasn't flashy or dramatic, just a quiet cafe, rain outside the window, and two people sitting across from each other, unsure how much to reveal. She looked at me, eyebrows slightly raised, a soft curiosity in her eyes. "You look like you carry a lot on your shoulders," she said. I laughed softly, almost bitterly. Maybe, or maybe I just pretend well. That made her smile, small, understanding. "Pretending doesn't make it go away, you know," she replied. I nodded. "Yeah, I've learned that the hard way." We started talking about everyday things at first, work, routines, life in the city. But slowly the conversation drifted deeper, naturally. She told me about the pressures she faced growing up, not just school or family expectations, but the small rules that shaped her decisions, the quiet fears no one ever talked about. I shared mine too, cautiously at first. Responsibilities I had carried alone, the fear of failing those who depended on me, the moments I had to smile even when everything inside me felt chaotic. We realized, quietly, that this was different from anything else we had experienced. This wasn't just casual conversation. It was the start of understanding another human being, the start of trust. And in that rainy cafe under soft lamplight, I knew something important. Responsibility isn't just about managing your own life. It's about learning how to carry someone else's trust with care. After that first conversation, we started to talk more often, not just about life, but about what it meant to carry responsibility. "You know," I said one evening, "I've always thought being a man means handling everything alone, fixing problems, protecting others, never showing weakness." She looked at me thoughtfully. "I used to think being a woman was about silently carrying everything on your shoulders, being careful not to upset anyone, never taking too much space," she replied. I nodded slowly. "It's funny. We've both been carrying weight, just in different ways, and for different reasons." She smiled faintly. "Yes. And sometimes I feel like life tests us in ways we don't even notice. Responsibilities sneak up quietly, and suddenly you realize how heavy everything is." I remembered my first real failure after school, the mistakes I had hidden, the nights I stayed up awake pretending I was fine. I told her about it. She listened quietly, without judgment. "And that's when I learned," I said finally, "that responsibility isn't just about action. It's about trust, about letting someone see the burden you carry." She nodded, reaching for my hand. "I've learned the same," she said softly. "Sharing it doesn't make you weaker. It makes life lighter." In that moment, I realized something important. Responsibility isn't a solo journey. It's a partnership, not just carrying your own weight, but learning how to share it with someone who truly sees you. A few days after our conversations about responsibilities, she started opening up about her past. "I never really told anyone this," she said softly, "but school, it was harder than people realize." I leaned forward, genuinely listening. "Hard in what way?" I asked. She sighed, looking out the window as if replaying the memories. "There were expectations everywhere. Grades, appearances, friends, even how I should behave around boys. It felt like life was measured in invisible rules, and breaking one meant failing completely." I nodded silently, understanding. "I know that feeling," I said. "Life becomes a balancing act where one misstep feels like the end of the world." She smiled faintly, a mix of sadness and strength in her eyes. "I remember staying up late pretending to understand things I didn't, smiling when I wanted to scream, and hiding mistakes because admitting them felt like weakness." I could see the weight she had carried, the quiet endurance that molded her into the person she was now. "I did the same," I admitted.
My parents, my teachers, they expected confidence and control. I faked it every day, pretending I had life figured out. She looked at me, eyes softening. "And yet, here we are," she said, "carrying those lessons, those responsibilities, but slowly learning we don't have to do it alone." And in that quiet moment, I thought, life doesn't just teach responsibility, it teaches how to share it with someone who truly sees you.
After hearing about her school life, our conversations naturally shifted to life after school, the responsibilities that hit hard, the reality no one prepares you for. "I always thought finishing school meant freedom," she said quietly, "but it felt like the weight only got heavier." I nodded, feeling a familiar knot in my chest. Yeah, life has a way of piling on responsibilities quietly, so you barely notice until it's almost too much to bear. She looked at me, eyes serious. "And the strange part, everyone expects you to handle it perfectly. They don't see the nights you stay awake, the pressure you swallow, or the mistakes you hide." I swallowed hard, remembering my own struggles. "I know exactly what you mean. I pretended I had control, while inside I was constantly calculating how not to disappoint anyone, family, friends, even myself." She reached out, lightly touching my arm. "Sometimes," she said softly, "I think the hardest responsibility isn't what life asks of you. It's how to carry it without breaking and without hurting the people you care about along the way." I looked at her, realizing the truth in her words. For years, I thought being responsible meant carrying the weight alone, hiding fear and never asking for help. But here, with her, I felt something different. Responsibility could also mean sharing the weight, leaning on someone who understands, and trusting that together the burden is lighter. And in that quiet conversation, I realized a fundamental truth. Life doesn't just teach you responsibility, it teaches you how to find someone willing to share it with you. Not everything in life goes smoothly, even when intentions are good. A few weeks into knowing each other, a small misunderstanding tested us. I was caught up with work and family matters, and she felt I was ignoring her. "You've been distant lately," she said softly when we met at the cafe. Her eyes held a mix of hurt and concern. I hesitated, unsure how to explain without sounding defensive. I've just been busy," I replied, trying to sound casual. She tilted her head, not angry, but perceptive. "Busy? That's your answer? I thought being busy meant nothing could come between us." I realized then that my words weren't enough. She wasn't upset about the hours I worked. She was upset because she felt unseen, like I wasn't noticing her needs even while I carried my responsibilities. I didn't mean to make you feel that way," I said quietly. "I've been overwhelmed, but that's no excuse for ignoring you." Her eyes softened slightly. I want to feel included even when life gets messy." It hit me. Responsibility wasn't only about managing tasks or duties. It was about emotional awareness, about seeing the people you care about even when life gets chaotic. We sat in silence for a while, but this silence wasn't empty. It was reflective, almost healing. That night, I understood an important lesson. Trust and connection can't survive on intentions alone. They need communication, attention, and care, especially when life gets busy. And in that understanding, our bond grew a little stronger. Not perfect, not untested, but more real than ever before. After our first misunderstanding, something shifted between us. Not dramatically, but subtly, like a quiet recognition that we didn't have to carry everything alone. One evening, we sat together on the sofa, the room dimly lit with warm indoor light. She rested her head on my shoulder, and for the first time, it felt natural to just lean. "I used to think leaning on someone meant weakness," I admitted softly. "But now I see it's strength too. It's trusting someone enough to let them share your burdens." She smiled faintly, her fingers brushing mine. "I used to feel like I had to manage everything alone,
even small things, even emotions, but it's exhausting. I think I finally understand what it means to lean on someone without fear. We stayed like that for a while, saying nothing. The silence wasn't awkward, it was comfortable, healing. We didn't have to explain ourselves, we just existed in mutual support. I realized then that responsibility in a relationship isn't only about action or duty, it's about being present, emotionally available, and willing to share the weight. And in that quiet moment, I felt something I hadn't in years: relief. Relief that I didn't have to face life alone. Relief that someone saw me, flaws and all, and still stayed. For the first time, responsibility didn't feel like a burden. It felt like a bond, a promise, unspoken, but deeply understood.
Life isn't always about big milestones. Sometimes it's the small moments that leave the deepest mark. One afternoon, we were walking through the city streets, the sunlight casting warm, golden light over the buildings. Street musicians played softly, and pigeons scattered at our feet. We laughed over the silliest things: a spilled coffee, a pigeon chasing a stray crumb, my terrible attempt at imitating the street musician's tune. "I never thought a small moment like this could feel so important," she said, smiling. I glanced at her, realizing she was right. It wasn't about grand gestures or perfect days. It was about noticing, sharing, and enjoying the simple human moments together. Later, as we rested on a park bench, she leaned against me. "Responsibility isn't just about work or life's heavy demands," she whispered. "It's also about making time to enjoy the little things, even when everything else feels overwhelming." I nodded. "Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? We've been learning how to carry life's weight, but these tiny moments teach us how to carry it together." And in that quiet connection, I felt something shift. Trust and intimacy aren't built in the grand moments. They're built in the shared smiles, the gentle touches, and the understanding that someone is there, not just for the storms, but for the sunlit afternoons too. For the first time, I realized love isn't just support in hardship, it's presence in the everyday. And sometimes those small moments matter more than anything else. Life has a way of testing you when you least expect it. A few weeks later, we faced our first real challenge together. Deadlines collided, unexpected errands popped up, and responsibilities seemed to multiply overnight. One rainy evening, we walked under umbrellas through the city streets. I could see the worry in her eyes, but also the determination to face everything head on. "I don't know how we'll manage all this," she admitted quietly. Her fingers brushed mine under the umbrella, a subtle reminder that she wasn't giving up. I looked at her, feeling both exhaustion and gratitude. "We'll handle it," I said softly. "Not alone, together." That night, we divided tasks, checked in constantly, and offered support wherever we could. It wasn't easy. We were tired, stretched thin, but neither of us complained. During a quiet moment, she looked at me and whispered, "I'm glad you're here. Even when everything feels impossible, having you beside me makes it bearable." And that's when I realized something crucial. Responsibility isn't just about managing life's tasks. It's about being present for the person you care about, especially when everything around you is chaotic. By the end of the day, drenched but smiling, I knew this was a turning point. The first real test had arrived, and we had passed, not perfectly, but together. It wasn't just survival, it was partnership, it was trust, it was proof that we could carry life's burdens side by side. After that first real test, life didn't get easier, but something changed between us. We learned to notice the little struggles, the tiny burdens that rarely get spoken aloud. One evening, we were cooking dinner together in her small kitchen. I dropped a bowl by accident, and she laughed, not mockingly, but warmly, as if saying, "It's okay, we're in this together." I always thought responsibility meant I had to manage everything perfectly, I admitted, wiping the counter. Now I see it's about sharing it,
even the small, messy moments. She nodded, stirring the sauce. "And I've learned the same," she said softly. "Life doesn't have to be perfect. We just have to make it together, even if it's messy." As we worked side by side, the kitchen filled with laughter and quiet understanding, I realized trust wasn't just about facing big challenges. It was about noticing the little things, her tired sigh after a long day, my exhaustion after a project, and still choosing to be present, to support, to connect. That night, lying in bed later, I understood a deeper truth. Responsibility isn't heavy when it's shared. It becomes a bond, a partnership, a quiet strength that grows over time. And for the first time, I felt like I wasn't just surviving life. I was living it with someone who truly cared, someone willing to face both the chaos and the ordinary together. Life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. One evening, we had planned a quiet dinner together, but work deadlines piled up, errands demanded attention, and suddenly the simple plan of being together felt impossible. She arrived at the cafe, eyes searching mine. "You look tired," she said softly. "I am," I admitted, forcing a smile. I wanted to be here with you." She hesitated for a moment, then spoke. "I know life gets complicated, but sometimes I just want to feel that I matter, even when everything else is chaotic." Her words hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't just about being physically present. It was about emotional attention, noticing her, even when responsibilities seemed overwhelming. "I understand," I said, taking her hand. "I'm sorry I made you feel unseen. Even when life gets messy, you always matter to me." Her eyes softened, a small smile breaking through. "I know," she whispered, "and that's why I stay. Because I trust that even when things go wrong, we're trying together." That night, I realized responsibility isn't just about handling life's tasks. It's about showing up, not just physically, but emotionally. It's about making the people who matter feel seen, even when the world is pulling you in 100 directions. And in that moment, I understood that real connection isn't built on perfect circumstances. It's built on effort, patience, and care, even when life interrupts the plans you hoped for. After facing life's interruptions, we slowly began to understand the importance of compromise. One evening, we sat across from each other at a small dining table, papers and laptops scattered around, remnants of a hectic day. "I don't want to argue about small things anymore," she said quietly. "I just want us to work together, even when it's hard." I nodded, realizing how much truth there was in her words. Yeah, I've been stubborn before, thinking my way was the only way. But I see now it's not about being right. It's about being together. We started discussing our schedules, priorities, and expectations, not in a rigid way, but gently, patiently. Sometimes we disagreed, but instead of tension, we listened, adjusted, and found a middle ground. "Compromise isn't losing," I said softly. "It's creating a space where both of us can breathe, even when life is complicated." She reached across the table, taking my hand. "And it's not just about schedules or tasks. It's about understanding each other, noticing the needs, and respecting them." That night, I realized an important truth. Responsibility in a relationship isn't just about doing what's expected. It's about learning to bend without breaking, to listen without judgment, and to build harmony through care and patience. And in that quiet, shared understanding, our connection deepened further, not because life had become easier, but because we had learned how to face it together. Even when life seems to settle, the past has a way of returning, quietly, subtly. One evening, as we sat on the balcony watching the sunset, she grew quiet, lost in thought. "Can I tell you something about my past?" she asked softly. "Always," I replied, sensing the weight behind her words. She sighed, her gaze fixed on the horizon. When I was younger, I trusted too easily and got hurt. I learned to build walls to protect myself, and sometimes I still feel those walls creeping up. I reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "I understand," I said. "We all carry scars, memories that shape us, but walls don't have to separate us from the people who care." She looked at me, eyes glistening, a mixture of fear and relief. "I want to trust," she whispered, "but sometimes my past feels heavier than my present." I held her hand tighter. "You can lean on me," I said softly. "I'm not going anywhere. Your past doesn't scare me. It's part of what makes you, you." For a long time we sat there in silence. No words were needed. The quiet was a shared understanding, a promise that even shadows from the past couldn't break the bond we were building. That night I realized responsibility isn't just about managing life or supporting someone in the moment. It's also about holding space for someone's fears, their history, and their vulnerability. And in that space, I felt our trust grow stronger. Not perfect, not untested, but real, resilient, and deeply human.
Life has a way of testing what you think is secure. A few days after she shared her past, I noticed a shadow of hesitation in her eyes when a message popped up on her phone. "Is everything okay?" I asked softly, sensing her tension. She hesitated, then smiled faintly. "It's nothing, just someone from work texting." I wanted to trust her completely, and I did, but a flicker of unease crept in, a reminder of my own insecurities. "I trust you," I said carefully, "but sometimes I feel insecure, like I need reassurance." She looked at me, her eyes warm and understanding. "Then tell me," she whispered. "Not in anger, not in blame, just tell me how you feel." And I did. I admitted the fear I carried quietly, the tiny voice that wondered if I was enough, if I might lose her. She listened without judgment, without trying to dismiss my feelings, just listening. "Thank you for telling me," she said softly, "and thank you for trusting me enough to share it." That night, I realized something important. Responsibility in a relationship isn't just about actions. It's about being honest with your emotions, even when they feel small, irrational, or uncomfortable. And sometimes it's the tiny moments of vulnerability, the quiet confessions and listening that strengthen trust more than any grand gesture ever could. For the first time, I didn't feel ashamed of feeling insecure. I felt grateful. Grateful for a relationship where honesty could exist without fear. After the moments of vulnerability, we both realized that life's challenges were easier to face together. One afternoon, we sat at her small living room table. Papers, laptops, and cups of coffee scattered around us. Deadlines, responsibilities, and small tasks loomed over both of us, but somehow sharing them made everything lighter. I used to think responsibility was a solo battle, something I had to manage alone no matter what. She nodded, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. I thought the same. I used to carry everything silently, thinking no one else could help. We laughed quietly at the irony, how both of us had been holding up invisible weights, not realizing the other was willing to help carry them. Dividing responsibilities doesn't make anyone weaker. It makes us stronger. It makes life survivable. She smiled, a quiet warmth spreading across her face. And it teaches patience, understanding, and trust, the kind of trust that doesn't crumble under pressure. That day, as we organized tasks, shared concerns, and offered small reassurances, I realized something profound. Responsibility isn't just about managing life's obligations. It's about partnership, empathy, and shared effort. And in that simple act of facing life together, I understood a deeper truth. Life may throw countless challenges at us,
But with the right person beside you, even the heaviest burdens feel lighter. Even the strongest bonds are tested in unexpected ways. One evening while walking near her apartment, I noticed a flicker of discomfort in her eyes when a friend called her unexpectedly. "Is everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. She paused, then looked at me with honesty. "Yes, just someone from the past checking in," she said softly. I felt a pang of jealousy, the tiny voice of insecurity creeping in, but instead of hiding it, I chose honesty. "I won't lie, it bothers me a little. I guess I just need reassurance." She smiled gently, reaching for my hand. "I understand," she whispered, "and I promise you're the one I'm sharing my life with, the one I trust. The past doesn't matter when the present is with you." Her words calmed the storm inside me. I realized honesty, even when it exposes uncomfortable feelings, builds trust far stronger than hiding them ever could. "It's strange," I said softly. "I've learned that admitting your fears is part of being responsible in a relationship." She nodded, her eyes reflecting warmth and understanding. "Yes, responsibility isn't just about taking care of tasks, it's also about taking care of each other's hearts." That night, I understood an important lesson. Jealousy isn't a weakness if expressed honestly and handled with care. It's an opportunity to deepen trust, to share vulnerabilities, and to grow together emotionally. And in that quiet, honest exchange, our connection grew stronger than ever.
After weeks of challenges, misunderstandings, and shared responsibilities, we finally allowed ourselves to pause and celebrate the little victories. One evening, we went to a small, cozy restaurant, just the two of us, away from deadlines and life's pressures. The warm, golden light bathed the room, creating a calm, intimate atmosphere. "I can't believe how far we've come," she said softly, smiling as she raised her glass. I mirrored her smile, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "Neither can I. We've faced so much, and yet here we are, still together, still learning, still supporting each other." We clinked glasses, laughter spilling between us, and for a moment the chaos of life felt miles away. "It's strange," I admitted, "how small moments like this, just being together, sharing a simple dinner, can feel like such a huge victory." She reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "It's not the big milestones that matter most," she whispered. "It's the little ones, the moments where we choose each other despite the challenges." I nodded, feeling the truth in her words. Responsibility, trust, and love aren't always about the grand gestures. They're in the tiny acts of patience, understanding, and presence. That night, as we left the restaurant and walked under the city lights, I realized that celebrating life's small victories was as important as surviving the storms. And in that realization, I felt a deeper bond between us, a quiet acknowledgement that together we could face anything. Life isn't always kind, even when you think you found stability. One afternoon, we faced unexpected challenges, deadlines, emergencies, and responsibilities colliding all at once. We found ourselves rushing through the city, preparing, adjusting, and supporting each other as best we could. She packed her bag, her eyes focused but slightly tired. "I don't know how we'll get through this," she admitted quietly. I reached for her hand, squeezing it reassuringly. "We'll figure it out. Not alone, together. That's what matters." The day was chaotic. We ran errands, handled tasks, and reassured family and friends, all while keeping each other in check, making sure neither of us broke under pressure. In a quiet moment, she looked at me, her expression softening. "Even when life is a mess, having you here makes it bearable," she whispered. I smiled, realizing something profound. Responsibility isn't just about handling the storms alone. It's about being a partner through them, noticing each other's limits, supporting where needed, and sharing the weight. By the time the evening came, drenched but smiling, we knew something had changed. The real test wasn't just life's chaos, it was how we faced it together, with patience, care, and trust. And in that shared endurance, I realized that partnership isn't just about surviving life, it's about facing it side by side, storm after storm, and knowing neither of us would face it alone. After weathering the storms together, our bond began to deepen in unexpected ways. One quiet evening, we sat on the sofa, the soft glow of a lamp casting gentle shadows across the room. "I have something I've never told anyone," she whispered, her hand lightly brushing mine. I looked at her, attentive, encouraging. "Then tell me, I'm here." She took a deep breath and slowly shared a memory from her past, a fear she had carried for years, a secret she had locked away, afraid of judgment or misunderstanding. Listening to her, I felt the weight of her vulnerability. And yet, in that moment, it didn't feel heavy. It felt sacred. "I trust you enough to tell you this," she said softly, "and I hope it won't change how you see me." I reached for her hand, holding it firmly. "It won't," I promised. "Sharing these things isn't weakness, it's trust, and I'm grateful you trust me." We sat in silence for a while, absorbing the intimacy of shared secrets, realizing that vulnerability could be a bridge, not a barrier. That night, I understood a deeper truth. Responsibility isn't just about actions or tasks. It's about holding space for each other's fears and truths, creating a safe place where honesty and trust can grow. And in that quiet, shared understanding, I felt our connection strengthen in a way nothing else could. A bond forged not by convenience or circumstance, but by the courage to be seen fully, without judgment. After months of shared challenges, small victories, and moments of vulnerability, we found ourselves standing on the balcony one quiet evening, watching the city lights flicker below. "I keep thinking about the future," she said softly, her fingers intertwined with mine. "And?" I asked, leaning closer. "And I realize I don't want to face it alone," she whispered. "I want someone to share it with, someone who sees me, understands me, and stays even when things get hard." I looked at her, feeling the weight and beauty of her words. "I feel the same," I admitted. "Life is unpredictable, full of responsibilities, fears, and challenges. But with you, I feel like we can face anything." We talked for hours about plans, hopes, fears, and even the small dreams we had kept to ourselves. No pressure, no grand declarations, just honesty and understanding. And in that moment, I realized a profound truth. Responsibility isn't just about carrying burdens or facing life's storms. It's about choosing each other again and again, even when the path is uncertain. She rested her head on my shoulder, and I held her close, feeling a quiet certainty in my heart. We didn't have all the answers. Life would continue to challenge us, but we were ready, together. For the first time, the future didn't feel intimidating. It felt possible. And in that possibility, I knew we had built something real, resilient, and lasting. The journey had been long, filled with challenges, misunderstandings, moments of doubt, and yet countless small victories that had brought us closer. On a clear night, we sat together under a starry sky, the city lights twinkling below us like a mirror of the universe. "I never imagined we'd come this far," she whispered, her head resting lightly on my shoulder. "Me neither," I replied softly. "But here we are, and somehow, through all the chaos, the fears, and responsibilities, we've managed to hold on together." We didn't need grand words or dramatic gestures. The quiet presence, the shared smiles, and the simple touch of hands spoke volumes. I realized then that life's true responsibility isn't just about managing tasks or obligations. It's about showing up for each other in every moment, big or small. It's about trust, patience,
understanding, and the courage to be vulnerable. "I'm glad it's you," I whispered, knowing that in this imperfect world, our partnership had become a source of strength, not a burden. And in that silence, under the stars, I felt a sense of peace unlike anything I had ever known. We had weathered the storms, shared our burdens, and found in each other not just love, but a true companion for life. And for the first time, I felt completely certain. No matter what comes next, we would face it side by side, together, finally.